Joanna Hodorowska is the founder and CEO of Nutrition in Motion, a sports nutrition therapy coaching company inspiring athletes to find their amazing by nurturing their body, mind, and soul, not just their sport. She is a holistic nutrition therapy coach, energy worker, minister, author, and competitive triathlete. Joanna helps you identify the cause of your symptoms and uses real food nutrition, the path to heal, energy work, and essential oils to fix the issue for good. She restores balance from inside out so you can perform at your full potential with loving peace and vitality every day. She specializes in GI distress, pain and stress management, fatigue, and sports nutrition. She's also the author of Messages of Love and Inspiration for Every Moment to inspire all of us to respond with love, including of self first. Find your amazing today, tomorrow, and beyond. Nutrition for body, mind, and spirit, and sport. Please help me welcome Joanna Hodorowska. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, for having me back again. It's really a pleasure to be with you again and kind of dabble into a different aspect of what I do. And I want to thank you for taking interest in your health and in your well-being so that you can help yourself as well as the people that you work with. So I want you to give yourself a pat on the back for joining us here today. So, question I have for you is, when you're triggered, do you react or do you respond?
I react. When you're triggered.
When you're triggered, basically, I'll give you an example. I'll actually tell you about my client, Susan, who her trigger was stupid. She felt like a stupid teacher. And she's actually a nurse practitioner. But she has to shadow, she has the new residents shadow her in her facility. And when she is asked to do that, she's like, oh God, I dread this. I feel so stupid. I am a stupid teacher. This is based on some experience and some other criticism that she had, so she's internalizing that criticism. And now her trigger is she feels stupid. Once we were able to kind of uncover where this came from, it was about 2 days after one of our sessions. And she was able to actually step back from the situation, and instead of going into that dread of, oh God, here I have to do this shadowing thing again, I'm such a stupid teacher. Wait, this happened in Joanna's session. Now I remember what I can do. And she was able to basically step out, reassess, come back in, and then embrace the situation. She ended up having actually a really fun time that day. It was one of her best experiences. The person that was shadowing her was like, that was so much fun, that was amazing. Then her boss even, and her supervisor, commended her. So it's about being able to reframe and being able to step away from the situations to be able to respond differently than reacting. Because that reaction causes stress. And when we're stressed, because we know that stress happens out there. Stress happens when you get in your car, you drive, and there's traffic. Stress gets when you get home because there's all these responsibilities, all these obligations, all these things that you have to do. And when you have all those stresses, then all you feel is like you're just, anybody just touches your stupid button or whatever button it is, that's your trigger. But that's your opportunity to actually heal and really be able to come from a place of loving. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today, is how to be able to use energy work. Because the last time I was here, we talked about the three-legged stool. And anytime that the one of the legs is overstressed, it gets weak and typically bends and breaks. And typically your balanced stool is no longer balanced and you're falling over. That's usually when you have the health issues, and that's typically when people come to see me for the nutrition, because they have fallen apart and they don't know why. So I work on that physical legs to help people eat, move, and sleep better. but I also work on the mental and the emotional parts, because the way that you feel about yourself and how you view yourself affects how you eat, move, and sleep. So we try to strengthen those 3 legs as well as the spiritual legs, and now you've got a 4-legged stool, because that's really secure. And that's really what we're trying to do when that stool is supporting you. And you want to feel balanced. You want to feel balanced inside and out. But those triggers, man, it throws you off balance right away. And then what happens next? You feel shame, guilt, maybe embarrassment, because you reacted that way and oops, I shouldn't have said that. Oops, it just came out. There are ways of being able to basically make those reactions to the stress go away. So it's not like the work that we do in energy work, it's not like we're actually taking away the stress, because the stress is always there. It's about changing your response to that stress, so it no longer is a stress. Because if we can continue to accumulate the stress, that's when, then we're wound up like a drum. We got our shoulders crunched up here, and we can't think straight, and we can't get the things done that we want, and we're constantly triggered. And then we're constantly in more stress, and it's this endless spiral. And then we don't eat right, then we don't sleep right, and then we don't move right. And, your balanced stool is no longer balanced. You're just in that place of reacting constantly and trying to fix the reactions, which is really adding more stress into our lives. So if I were to show you a way to counteract that stress so that your body wouldn't react, you'd probably want to know, right? I know.
Yeah.
I would want to know too. I am fortunate to be a Path to Heal practitioner, and I'm a master practitioner. So I also got ordained in February as a minister with the Movement for Spiritual Inner Awareness. So now I infuse more light into the work that I do, and I infuse a little bit more loving into it. It's helped me to really uncover the issues so that the client can actually step outside, assess, really connect with their hearts, and then step back in and respond from a place of love. So later today, I'm going to also give you an opportunity or invite you to continue working together so that if you have those triggers, we can actually address those on a personal level, because everybody's different, so we have to work on them on a different level. So last time I was here, we talked about all the other aspects. Today I'm going to be working with the energy work as opposed to focusing on the concepts of the 3-legged stool. I am going to be using my book, but I'm also going to be using the sound healing with tuning forks and essential oils, because those all help to work kind of behind the scenes to help us really reconnect to that place of loving. And sometimes we need it in a jiffy, and sometimes we can actually feel like we can't get to the root of the issue. We go and meditate, we go for our walk, we go for our run, we go for our bike ride, whatever it is that we do as movement therapy, or that way that we actually can quiet the mind. For some people it's yoga, some people they can just sit on a mountaintop or in their living room and get those insights. Other people, they need the movement therapy to get to that place of calmness. But if you can't get to that place of calmness, we need some extra tools. So these are some of the tools that I have. I'm going to open this up, because this is how I use my book, the Messages of Love and Inspiration for Every Moment. I will just open it up sometimes just to find out, okay, well, what do I need to know today? What should I be focusing on? And so today we're going to be focusing on, in this particular session, is about going through the daily tasks, so that we need to, going through our list of tasks and really identifying what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done today. And being in that place of calmness, because that often is also a trigger for us. We feel overwhelmed. And when we're in that place of overwhelm, we're stressed. And when we're stressed, the triggers pop up a lot faster, because we don't have the defenses, we don't have the calmness to be able to respond from the heart. We respond from the ego, so to speak, or from the mind, who is terrified of re-experiencing the pain of the criticism that they had gotten before. So that overwhelm in creating the list and just reviewing it, saying, okay, what's important today and what's really not. That's what we're going to be focusing on during our session. Okay? The energy session here. And one of when I listen to some of the YouTube videos and do some of the reading of discourses and other material from John Rogers, the founder of the Movement for Spiritual Inner Awareness. And he calls these, these stupid buttons, or these, the stupid trigger, it's our issue to fix. If somebody pushes your stupid button and you react to that stupid button, it's not the other person's fault, or it's not their problem that the button was pushed. It's actually yours that needs to be fixed, so to speak. And it's the opportunity to heal. Rebecca Cohen created the Path to Heal system, and that's all about only love is real. So it's helping us to connect to that aspect of real love coming from and connecting to our hearts, and allowing the ego and the heart to basically play in the same sandbox together without being pissy. It's a novel concept, isn't it? Sometimes we're agitated to find that love, and sometimes we're actually nudged. So in the Path to Heal work, what we do with these emotions is basically they're coming up. Basically, these triggers are now our opportunity to heal the emotional hurt from earlier in our life. So if you can ask me any questions during the session too, just to see if you have any questions or need some insight. But our theme for today, based on this whole idea of creating the list and knowing what's important and what's not, is I create my dream of of loving every step of all I do today.
Should we write that down?
Sure. I'm going to have you repeating it too. Do you need something to write on?
Do you need some paper?
Do you need a pen too?
No, that I'm done.
Okay.
Say it again. I
I create my dream
my dream
of loving every step
of loving every step
of all I do today.
of all I do today.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to call in the light. So I'm going to call in the light of the Holy Spirit to love, surround, and fill each one of us here and protect us during this process. I ask for the presence of the Christ and the mystical traveler to help us to identify and release any karma, negativity, and imbalances and lift them up into the nothingness from which they came. We ask that through this process all be converted to unconditional love, and that it all be done for the highest good of all concerned and all of us here in this room, all that are surrounding us, and all of humanity. We thank all of our guides for their presence as well, and we ask that only light and calm and peace be with us today, so that we can fill our holes of criticism with love from this point forward, and so it is. So is there anybody who has a trigger that they want to work on? Or you can just imagine the trigger in your mind and it will somehow be
Well,
addressed.
Should I just mention like a situation where...
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm a member of a book club, and when we get together to talk about the book that we've read, I always feel that the others have more insight, more, um, they're deeper, um, maybe it is the stupid button. You're right. I think I don't have the same depth. I don't have the same, um, they're more profound than I am. They've given it more thought, or so it is that feeling of I'm not enough, or I'm not an equal contributor to the group.
Right.
So I just know that that's what goes on in my head, and it takes me the rest of the book club session to work that out of my mind.
Yeah, and I don't think you're alone in that scenario. I think that's the comparison game. We end up always being on the short end of the stick with that one. It's something that we do, but it's about being able to be present and say, you know what, I may not say a lot, but when I do, it's going to be as profound as anybody can have. And some of those other people, you have no idea. They might be doing the exact same thing,
Right.
and they just keep talking about stuff because they need to prove some that they have some other issue to make them kind of feel a little bit more empowered. So this comparison game is really our challenge, because that's where we feel those triggers.
Right.
But if we're triggered there, we might be triggered with those with comparing in other aspects of our lives too. So what's the opposite of comparing? Feeling complete confidence?
Yeah, right. Or feeling at least equal, or feeling we're on the same plane. We're on the same
Complete competence and confidence.
competence,
How's that?
competence and confidence, right?
Yeah, because I think it's a combination. Do you want to add anything, or not, or just go along with?
No, it's going through the divorce thing and dealing with the lawyer. I have things that I want to express, and he's always telling me to shut up,
So you are being
dumb down.
stifled.
Yes, I'm being stifled, and that really aggravates me because they're my concerns. Why can't I express my concerns? And it's not like I won't. It's just do it my way.
Right.
Who's paying who?
Yeah, that's a challenge, unfortunately, in that situation. But this is a communication issue, I think, with.
Yeah, and it's the thyroid issue that I have because it's with my mother, it's with the lawyer,
It's being able to express your emotions without having to feel like you're going to be criticized for them.
it's a baby.
Yeah. And I will join you in that one because that's still a fear that I hold on to. I've gotten much better at it, and with the energy work, that is what happens, that you get better at it. I think when you're done with it, you're done with this body and this lifetime, So we're always working on a little bit better because I think we can all do loving better. And we can fill those holes of criticism with more love so that they kind of dissipate and disappear, and then they're not a stress. But if we are scared of expressing our emotions or expressing our desires, we might attract the same people that can't do that, and then we start fighting more.
Yeah.
And then there's a discord. So,
I get it.
well, and we have to work on ourselves because you can't change your ex-husband.
And that's exactly the dynamic that was playing out. I had things to say, but he was like deaf ears,
Well, we all have fears, and that's part of it. It's part of that situation when I was talking about earlier, stepping outside of that situation to be able to come back in with a loving response. It's about being able to step back. And I remember being attacked a couple of years ago by somebody, and it really felt like an attack. And I was like, what the heck? And they actually said, but you can do this because you have the path to heal. And I was like, what the heck is that? And then I thought, well, yeah, I can actually come from a place of loving. I can actually see that your attacking me is your pain that you're unloading on me. And I can actually just be allowing you to unload without taking it on. Because it's not my issue, it's your issue. So yeah, I did have the path to heal, and I was able to diffuse the scenario so that we didn't have two pissy people in the room. Now I was able to diffuse it that they got out of their funk, pretty quickly because I was able to stay calm and not react. I could respond. So I'm just gonna also, this is just clearing the energy of the room. So now can we all say, I create my dream
I create my dream
of loving every step
of loving every step
of all that I do today.
of all that I do today.
This is some divine love and the keys to mystical manifestation. And I just realized I forgot to bring one book, so I forgot to bring the guide, so we're gonna have to do this all intuitively. I have a guide that goes with this. It's a 127-page book. We're just gonna have to improvise. This is what the universe sometimes does. You think you're organized, and you're not. So we're just going to go to pure love. I shouldn't say just pure love. We're going to do some pure love. So this is so you can embrace all aspects of yourself with love. And we are going to a dimension called attunement. And this is going to identify some of the illusions that we have and raise the vibration of those illusions to unconditional love so that they kind of melt away. But once we have that conscious connection, then we can step away from it and let go a lot easier. So here I'm going to give us all some prosperity. Take a deep breath in. And this is not just the financial, but it's all about the abundance on all levels. So that we get the abundance of love, the abundance of peace, abundance of play, calm, loving, all of that. And if it comes in the form of money, even better. Right? Because that takes away some of that stress. And that takes away that trigger of, oh my God, I'm such a loser for not being able to make this work, or whatever our triggers are in relation to that. So we're going to get that abundance as well. So we're going to go to the illusion where I understand that not being able to solve this not feeling like an equal contributor. And I think that kind of addresses the lack of being able to speak up for your side.
And you also begin to see that it's a contract too, but it's like, when is this contract going to go away?
Yeah. Well, and it's about being able to stay strong and firm, because once the emotions come in, it's a mess. If we can, and it's not to say that emotions are bad, because we have emotions. We just need to give them a hug and recognize sometimes that they exist. So but when we get triggered into those emotions, we're not thinking very well, and we react, and then we're in that place of guilt, shame, and embarrassment. Which reminds me, there's this great grid called the Miracle of Me grid. And as everybody builds more and more of them, they all connect, and so the whole planet is actually connecting with the miracle of who they are. And the affirmation that goes along with this one is, I celebrate myself without fear, shame, embarrassment, or guilt. I am a miracle. And that's something that I did bring. We can talk about that later. I'll show you a way to get a copy of that. So we're working on this understanding that being unable to solve, not feeling like an equal contributor, is just an illusion that I hold on to, because solving it would be embarrassing, as others might perceive me as cocky.
As what?
Cocky.
Oh.
That word. Another word that triggers other emotions, right? And other feelings of criticism. So I'll repeat that sentence one more time. I understand that not being able to solve not feeling like an equal contributor is just an illusion that I hold on to, because solving that problem would be embarrassing, as others may perceive me as cocky. Others might perceive me as the know-it-all, you know? And I think there's this idea that, and this is what's coming to me, is that we might feel like we're taking over the conversation because we are telling our story, or we know too much that the other person doesn't understand. But the underlying the underlying issue is that it's that fear of how it's going to be perceived. But that's the illusion, is that we perceive that we might be perceived as the know-it-all and, you know, being cocky. But it's that conflict of confidence versus cockiness. So if you can stand up and speak for yourself, that's confidence. If you're talking from the heart and you're talking your truth, and you're talking about asking for your needs to be met, and it's coming from a place of love, that's not cockiness. That's confidence. And especially as women, you know, if men talk that way, it would seem like, well, that's how it's supposed to be. But when women talk that way, we get labeled as cocky. So right, and it's really kind of that's the reel that's playing in our head that we need to just kind of snip and take out, which is what we're doing here. So it's about being able to really connect with who we are, connect with our needs and our truth, and just be able to ask for it. Because if we can't ask for it, then we can't get it. And not being able to stand up for ourselves, or not feeling like we're the equal partner, it's basically allowing us to release that part so that we can actually step into our confidence.
But now I was seeing the lawyer as being that way, cocky. But also you're saying it's a reflection in me. It's just a perception that I have to change of the way.
It could be. Yeah. It doesn't always have to be, because sometimes it is a reflection. You know, it's sometimes it's something that this is your perception that you already have of lawyers. So then he's doing things, and in your mind it's like, well, he's proving that part.
No, I didn't expect that at all. It's just that's his persona. It's like, I know it all, I'm going to tell you how to do. But also, like you're saying, I have to see that in the reflection of it too, to change the dynamic within me.
It's very possible, yes. You know, and it's one of those things where I have a swimmer client right now who, she went and saw a different, she had called me last year because she really wanted to change her nutrition to perform better. And I know I'm talking nutrition and not the energy work, but we're circling around. So her mother decided she really wanted it covered by insurance, so she went to an RD, which is fine. A year later, I get a call from her mother saying that session with the RD didn't go very well. She got labeled as anorexic and having an eating disorder. When I talked to her, read all of her emails, she's just hungry for information. All she wants is to perform better so that she could be a better swimmer and she could, you know, perform better. We did some sessions. I get this panic attack kind of text the other day, and she's like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm undoing everything that we've done, and I'm feeling better, but I can't figure out why I'm binge eating every night. I'm like, well, what are you binge eating on? It doesn't matter. I'm everything. There's not one particular thing. But I feel terrible. I feel terrible for eating that much food. So I started asking some questions. That label that she had been given of being anorexic, that's that criticism. So she got triggered by anorexia and just that label. And now she's so scared and terrified of becoming anorexic that when she is performing better and her body's a little bit leaner and looking, she binge eats so that she doesn't become anorexic.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but this was the example of, you know, we were able with the energy work too to clear that reel from her head so that she can just focus on who she really is, which is this amazing athlete that happens to be a woman, you know, and just really focus on who her true self is and not with this label that got brought in unnecessarily. But sometimes we take those labels and we put them on other people, and then we create the scenario so that's the expectation. So we put our own labels on. This is our own self-criticism of I'm unable to ask for what I need, or I'm unable to contribute. So I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. But then that just kind of fuels your pattern. So we're clearing this part. That's the best part. Right now we're just identifying it. And are you ready to move on?
I am.
Are you ready to move on?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't want
So we're gonna, part 2. I take myself out of my zen using powerlessness to make it harder for me to embrace my path so that I do not feel burdened about my rejection of a subject. And it's a thing. Relationships. Isn't everything based on relationships? I mean, it's work relationships, personal relationships, book club relationships, networking, you know, and everything. So I'll repeat that sentence. I take myself out of my zen using powerlessness to make it harder to embrace my path so that I do not feel burdened about my rejection of relationships. Anything coming to you on that?
Take myself out of my zen, did you
Yes,
say?
out of my zen. That's your happy, peace, calming,
Oh, okay.
you know, amazing place, which is, you know, how we feel when we fill all those holes of criticism with love. So we take ourselves out of our zen using powerlessness to make it harder to embrace our path so that we don't feel burdened about our rejection of relationships. And I need another, I think I need an adverb. Unkind relationships. No, it's not unkind. We're feeling like we're being unkind in the relationships. That's what's coming up, is that, you know, we feel that relationships are supposed to be unkind. And that's part of the illusion. And relationships really are about exposing your vulnerability, which I've always hated that word until recently. But it's really exposing your stuff so that the other person can actually understand you better. And then when you are able to do that, then the other person does the same thing. But if we can do that with loving, without feeling like we're being challenged and triggered and reacted, or and we react, that's when we can find the kindness in the relationships. And then it's 100-100, not 50-50, or 70-30, or whatever number it is. You know, there are the ebbs and flows, but it shouldn't be like push away, and collide and retract. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just at a pathwork class last night. They talked about the same exact thing.
I guess this is the time to get that extra boost of confidence so that we can actually start speaking our needs and asking for what it is that we need. And, you know, standing up for, hey, I got something good to say. I'd like some attention, please, and I'd like some recognition for my insight, because my insight is just as good as anybody else's insight.
But how to get the other person to hear you? That's the part.
You know,
Well, and that's part of the work that sometimes needs to be done, is trying to find those new ways. But when we're in that place of reacting, we don't have new ways. And sometimes the way to get them to listen is to stand up and walk away. And that's sometimes hard. Sometimes it's, you know, we all have siblings, and I have one that triggers me the most, which I've allowed her to trigger me the most, which is fine. And she doesn't trigger me like she did. Now I know where we're coming from, and now we're on this even keel. But I would always think that she was unkind to me. But that was my illusion. So it was hard for me to have a conversation. But at some point, she was talking about something, and I'm like, this is obviously more important to you than it is to me. I love you no matter what. And it came easily for me suddenly to say that, but I just didn't want to argue anymore because there was no arguing with somebody who is always right. So their argument is always about making you feel wrong. But that may also have been my perception of, in that scenario, I always feel wrong. So therefore, I have to react or defend myself, and that's not really a fun place to be. So doing more of the energy work can help identify where some of those triggers are and really release some of those reels so that we don't keep re-experiencing those events. We can stay in that place of calm, and when we're in that place of calm, that's when we get those insights of, oh, this is what I'm going to say next. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Drama only creates more drama.
Yeah, and people will say, I don't want drama, yet they're always running back to drama because
Right.
that's what they're comfortable with. Stepping out of that drama seems to be the hard part.
Mhm.
Even though that's what they want, it's not easy because that's what they're used to.
Mhm.
So we've got to break those chains and break those patterns. And sometimes just awareness is enough. Other times you really need to add the energy work in just to be able to get to the root of the issue and make that whole issue go away. Because if you built if that's the foundation, is this emotional hurt that you got triggered and you feel stupid, and you built that on all your other assumptions on top of that, well, what if that's not the right assumption? So we have to take those layers off and then get rid of that one too, so that you can actually start moving forward in that place of loving, as opposed to fear of expectation of re-experiencing the pain again. So we're going to move on, if that's okay with you. I'm going to pass out this is one of my favorite blends. It's called Forgive. And what I want you to do is actually sniff one nostril, so you get one lobe and then the other one. But try not to stick it on your nose. This one at least is not a hot oil, so it's not going to be something that stings. But that's one of my favorite oils because a lot of times we need to actually forgive ourselves so that we can then let go of that burden of the criticism and the trigger.
Like spruce or something.
Yes,
like
there's a
fir.
lot of spruces in there. I think Douglas fir might be in that one too.
Mm.
So we're going to do the technique. So we're going to release this stuff that we just talked about. And the technique is called the Keys to Mystical Manifestation and the Miracle of Me grid. Because we are going to exist in a pain-free reality, right? Without the shame, pain, guilt, and embarrassment. So that our life is a miracle. They're still singing. As soon as I put them down, then they stop. Okay, so that is our abbreviated version of what the Path to Heal work does. Typically, the sessions are about 45 minutes to an hour. So you can really get into a much deeper level. And because we all have, our own stuff, each session really identifies what we're ready to work on. and go to that level deeper of really connecting to that loving and filling those holes of criticism with love so that we feel peace, calm, and respond as opposed to react to the triggers. Because the triggers may not go away until we actually heal ourselves. You know? So this is, anytime you have those triggers, sometimes just having the awareness, and you might notice it even, you know, later this afternoon or tomorrow. All of a sudden you'll be like, huh, I'm not reacting to that trigger anymore. I'm actually in a place of calm, so I can respond, and I can choose a different way of speaking up for what I need, because we did that session with Joanna and the Tacky Hill one. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it really does help to kind of, you know, depending on what issue is going on, but the triggers, they're constant. Well,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say they're constant, but
Yeah. There.
You can show up to see if you learned a lesson or not.
and if you keep experiencing the same thing over and over again, you know, if it's your stupid button or your, you know, I'm not worthy of saying anything button, it's really something happened that is causing that to be just buried into the energy field, and you need to just identify it and let that emotion free, because that is not who you are. You know, if you read the 4 agreements, it's a similar kind of concept where that's the first one is the first agreement is always be true to you. But a lot of times we take those other things and we take those labels and we try to, you know, yeah, they should be like clothes. We try them on, that doesn't fit right, throw it away, you know, or pass it on to somebody else, maybe it'll work for them. But we take a lot of these labels and we try them on, it doesn't feel good, but then we force ourselves to hold on to it because that's how we're going to get accepted. That's how we fit in. But it's not who we are, so we're triggered more easily because we're carrying that burden of trying to fit in. So the criticisms become, you know, the holes that are created in our being. And once we can fill those holes with love and realize, oh, I just need to throw that label away. Oh, I just need to throw that away. Then the love starts to grow, and the love for ourselves grows, so that then we can share that love with others and be more loving. Make sense?
Yeah.
So I also brought this little exercise, and this is something that I wanted to something that you can actually take with you. This is a sheet that I typically use when I create my custom essential oil blends. And this is just an example. But it might be something that you might find helpful next time something comes up. You know, it lists some of the triggers, and then you can actually flip them around to, okay, these are some of the emotions that I have that I feel triggered by, and how can we convert them into something positive, you know? So you might get the clarification of, okay, I really don't want this anymore. Okay, so what do you want? And you can just use that on the second half of the list. And I know you had the whole class with Nancy with the essential oils. I don't know if she gave you a chart of essential oils and emotions, but I have this chart as well, which kind of, they go hand in hand. So if you have essential oils, then you can just utilize the ones that are, and this isn't all of them. I have a book that has, you know, the 180 oils in it. But this is some of the more common ones, you know, for defensiveness. Didn't we talk about that today? Mm-hmm. So you can kind of look at some of those and say, okay, that one really resonates with the feelings, the emotions that I'm having. So for defensiveness, it could also be defensiveness that triggers anger or with anger, or it could be defensiveness that I feel irritable, or I need to show a much tougher exterior. So that's also I guess we'll call it just a chart that kind of goes with the first one. And then that miracle of me grid. So those will all help to kind of help you connect with, in the moment, of what emotion needs to be shifted into something more positive, and what maybe the next steps would be in terms of, well, what is it that I really want? Okay, now I can go ask for that, because now I have more clarity based on what it is that I don't want. And most of us keep asking for what we don't want, and that's when,
That's what you get, right?
yeah, but it's about shifting it into what we do want. And then my book is also another tool where, like today, we just opened it up. Now, you know, maybe you're feeling invisible. Maybe that's the other part of what we worked on today. You know, you are not invisible. You're only invisible if you think you're invisible, right? So it's all about taking that deep breath and connect with the feeling that is in your heart. Feel the warmth of God inside of you. Feel this heat radiating and enveloping your body and your being. Focus on this feeling of love. I know that you are not invisible to God. This feeling inside your heart is God. It is unconditional love. It is always there. So sometimes it's, you know, just the one little paragraph,
Right.
and voila, you can shift from where you are of feeling like you're Swiss cheese full of holes, or you can just say, oh, that's what's going on. I can just connect with me and my heart, and all the other things are no longer an issue. Normally I have this as, well, it is $7. It's always $7.
I got that.
Yeah, and you have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
And today I'm autographing it. I want to add the tip sheets, but I also want to add the Path to Heal work. And usually the Path to Heal work, when those are 125 per session. Today I want to give you all of it for 25. And with you it'll be 20, just because you already have the book. So that's something that I want to offer to you, because when you go back out there, that's where the stress happens. That's when the triggers start happening all again. And if you were able to get those accolades because you went from fear, like Susan, to doing something and then being able to reframe and embrace the opportunity, then get actually accolades from the people that you work with, wouldn't it be worth it? Same thing with, you know, Leslie. She had that label and had all the wacky eating habits. She's now in a place of calm and embracing who her true self is. If we could do that for you, wouldn't that be worth it? So I wanted to offer the book, the What About Me and My Needs, the essential oils chart, and a one-on-one private session, because our triggers are all private. $20 today. And usually that's over 150 on my website. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. And I will stick around so that we can chat more. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.